Welcome to the last episode of The Twisted Lens until the fall. You know, it's time for a little summer break. The topic today is the intent of the Second Amendment and what that means in the modern world. The topic today is not gun control. However, the two issues have become so intertwined and fueled with such passion that it felt necessary to ask you to hear me out before forming an opinion. Okay. My intention is to present a context that you may not have considered, and while uncomfortable for sure, it's worthy of serious discussion. All right, let's go. The right to bear arms is complicated. The Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is widely known, and yet the original intent is largely misunderstood. With gun violence so much in the news, did the Founding Fathers get it right, or do we really need background checks and other tools to limit guns and keep our citizens safe? Before deciding too quickly, we may need to twist a lens and look down the barrel of this debate in a whole new way. The Second Amendment is only 27 words. It says, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." That's it. But what does it mean exactly? And what did it mean back in 1751? Today there are two big ideas. Number one, back in the day, a group of well-armed citizens was a proxy army for the federal government and were called a militia. Now in 1751, like today, they recognized it takes time to arm and fully train professional soldiers, so amateurs or volunteers were better than nothing. Number two, a well-armed state or province could also defend itself against the federal troops if needed. And since the United States were really a loose republic of independent states back then, this was not just paranoia. So looking through these two lenses, the right to bear arms meant very different things to different groups of people. Now today, the far right still fear the government and feel it's their constitutional right to protect themselves. Okay, maybe a bit crazy to the rest of us, but sometimes paranoia is justified. The other idea is more interesting. Since there has never been a major war in North America, ever, and not in Europe since the 1940s, many generations of people have never experienced the realities of war until about 130 days ago in Ukraine. As unthinkable as this conflict has become, even more absurd is how Russia thinks it can occupy a country of 44 million with an invading army of let's say, 300,000 soldiers. And even if you cut that number to 15 million able-bodied Ukrainians, that's a ratio of 50 to 1. So what's the catch? Well, defending yourself only works if every citizen is heavily armed. And that means we are seeing the Second Amendment as it was designed to work right before our eyes. Now, automatic weapons, well, they're not needed by hunters, but they are very effective against an invading army hell-bent on killing my family and destroying everything I love. With the help of Western governments supplying guns to Ukraine, which ironically most people support even with no background checks for unstable Ukrainians, Russia has no chance long-term of suppressing a heavily armed, motivated militia of people fighting for their homeland at a ratio of 50 to 1. Now, history proves this point. Stalin, Hitler, and others immediately disarmed not only their own people, but made it illegal for conquered citizens to own guns, punishable by death. Now, why? Because they clearly knew the reality of angry locals and crushed the rebellions before they started. Consider carefully, too, why it's illegal today for citizens of Russia and China to own a gun. Two of the most repressive governments in the world do not want well-armed citizens who can fight back. That's a sobering thought. The USA is the most heavily armed militia in the world, with more than 390 million guns in the hands of the people, making it impossible for the central government to repress the people, and more importantly, impossible for any invading army to occupy America. And that is a very good thing if viewed through this context and how the Founding Fathers imagined it. And what about a place like Taiwan? Now, they're clearly in great peril too. Should the citizens be immediately arming themselves? And from that perspective, more guns will certainly mean more violence, including school shootings. However, it could also mean the very survival of their country. Which outcome should I support? It's complicated. The right to bear arms is not a single-dimensional issue, and as recent events have shown, it's not an outdated or historical idea either. And let's be realistic. Background checks are definitely important and will help, but honestly, will do little statistically to solve the problem. I support those initiatives because most gun owners are conscientious, and those that are not, well, shouldn't be able to buy an automatic weapon at a flea market without even showing ID. The point is, the Founding Fathers understood how dangerous the world could be and had the wisdom to enshrine the right to protect myself right into the Constitution, and the 14th Amendment prevented any local government from infringing on those rights. Those are big ideas and worthy of discussion. I admit, if you don't like guns, the context seems crazy as violence tends to beget more violence in an endless cycle. So how could more guns possibly be the answer? I get it. The trouble is, as a modern society, we have so far failed to find a way to balance the security of our country while protecting our most vulnerable. And that's on us, not the Second Amendment.